The opening months of the Pacific War were defined by a single, terrifying symbol of Japanese air power: the Mitsubishi A6M Zero fighter. It was fast, possessed an unparalleled rate of climb, and could turn in circles tighter than any Allied aircraft. To the American pilots facing them in the skies over the Philippines, Malaya, and later the Solomon Islands, the Zero seemed invincible. It was a terrifying machine that established immediate air superiority for the Empire. The American F-4F Wildcat, the Navy's primary carrier fighter, was heavy, slower, and less agile. In direct, turning dogfights, the traditional measure of a fighter's worth, the Wildcat was simply outclassed. Reports flowed back to Washington of devastating losses. For the Allied High Command, the question was existential. How do you fight an enemy that can literally fly circles around you? This analysis is not merely about a dogfight. It is a case study in rapid technical intelligence, combat evolution, and the genius of tactical adaptation. It reveals the deadly secret, a set of simple yet brilliant tactical rules that U.S. pilots developed not by upgrading their aircraft, but by mastering the fatal flaws of the feared Zero. The turning point was not a new plane, but a new way of thinking. The crucible was the early, desperate fighting around the strategic airfield on Guadalcanal. To understand the secret, we must first understand the fundamental design philosophies of the two primary adversaries. Pros. It was built for range and maneuverability. To achieve its legendary performance, Japanese engineers prioritized lightness, stripping away nearly all protective armor and self-sealing fuel tanks. Cons. This lightness made the Zero extremely vulnerable. Its engine lacked a high power output, relying on low wing loading for agility. It was notoriously fragile. A single burst from a heavy-caliber machine gun could often bring it down. Pros. The Wildcat was a flying tank. It featured robust construction, thick armor plating for the pilot, and effective self-sealing fuel tanks. Its strength lay in its ability to absorb punishment. It also packed concentrated firepower with 6 powerful .50 caliber machine guns. Cons. It was heavy, slow, and lacked the Zero's climbing and turning performance. In the hands of an inexperienced pilot using old dogfighting tactics, the Wildcat was easy prey. In a classic turning engagement, dogfight, the Zero could easily outmaneuver the Wildcat, placing itself on the American fighter's tail and delivering the killing blow. The initial losses were staggering, forcing the American pilots to rethink the very nature of air combat. The search for a solution began with intelligence. There were 2 critical events that unlocked the Zero's secrets, even before the main air battles of Guadalcanal, captured and salvaged. Zero wreckage gave Allied engineers crucial data on its lightweight construction, the lack of armor, and the nature of its engine performance. This data confirmed its Achilles heel, its fragility. The most significant breakthrough came in June 1942, when a nearly intact Zero crash landed on Akutan Island in the Aleutians. Recovering and testing this Zero allowed U.S. test pilots to confirm its strengths and, more importantly, precisely identify its weaknesses at high speed and during negative G maneuvers. The intelligence confirmed that the Wildcat, despite its inferior turn rate, had a decisive advantage in speed during a dive and possessed a better rate of roll at high speeds, above 200 knots. The goal was no longer to fight the Zero in its own domain, turning, but to force it into the Wildcat's domain, speed and verticality. The deadly secret was distilled into a simple, 2-part doctrine that contradicted years of fighter-pilot tradition. This doctrine was formalized and rapidly disseminated throughout the Marine and Navy squadrons operating in the Pacific, particularly the famed Cactus Air Force operating out of Henderson Field on Guadalcanal. The Zero's greatest strength, its turn rate, was to be entirely avoided. When engaged by a Zero, the Wildcat pilot was instructed to immediately use his heavier, more powerful engine to dive away or execute a high-speed climb. The Zero lost its superior maneuverability as speed increased. It was designed for low-speed agility. By forcing the fight into the vertical plane, the Wildcat capitalized on its superior structure and weight to gain speed faster in a dive. The true combat advantage came from teamwork, moving away from single-plane dogfights, the Thatch Weave, developed by Navy Ace Lieutenant Commander John Jimmy Thatch. This formation involved two aircraft flying parallel to each other. When a Zero tried to target the leader, the wingman would turn sharply toward the leader and fly across the attacker's line of flight. This put the wingman in a perfect position to fire at the Zero, which was now flying directly into the crossfire, the scissors movement, Guadalcanal adaptation. This formation was based on the Thatch Weave principle. Pilots were warned to stick close together. When attacked, each two-plane element should set up a scissors movement, constantly turning toward each other. This forced the Zero to either break off the attack or fly into the concentrated superior firepower of the two F-4Fs, which could absorb punishment far better than the Zero could. These simple, yet revolutionary rules transformed the Wildcat from a vulnerable target into a terrifying hunting machine. The effectiveness of this new doctrine was proven daily in the brutal air battles over Guadalcanal, where the Marines of the Cactus Air Force faced relentless Japanese air raids from Rabaul. Lieutenant Commander Joe Foss, one of the highest-scoring American aces of the war, exemplified the new tactical mindset. He and his pilots never engaged the Zero in a turning contest. Instead, they relied on hit-and-run attacks from above, using speed and altitude to their advantage. The core of the new strategy was simple: pounce, shoot, and run. The Wildcat was used as a platform to deliver a quick, destructive burst of its 650 caliber guns. Given the Zero's fragility, a well-aimed burst was almost always fatal. The Wildcat pilot would then use their diving speed to escape and climb back to altitude, refusing to slow down for a traditional engagement. This tactical shift quickly reversed the kill ratios. While the Japanese continued to lose pilots trained in the old ways of the turning dogfight, the Americans were losing planes but not pilots due to the Wildcat's robust armor. The difference was unsustainable for Japan. The American success was rooted in exploiting two critical design compromises in the Zero. While the Zero carried two 20mm cannons and two 7.7mm machine guns, its early cannon rounds often proved unreliable, and the 7.7mm rounds lacked the stopping power of the Wildcat's 50 caliber bullets. The Wildcat could take the hits. The Zero could not. The Zero's reliance on range meant it sacrificed self-sealing fuel tanks to save weight. This was the most deadly flaw. A hit from a single 50 caliber round often ignited the Zero's exposed fuel, turning the plane into a fireball. This vulnerability led to the chilling nickname American pilots gave the Zero: one-shot wonder. The Japanese pilots, often trained in the tradition of Bushido, a code emphasizing honor and turning combat, continued to try to engage the Wildcat in the turning fight, playing directly into the American trap. Their doctrine was slow to change, and the quality of new Japanese pilots entering the fight quickly diminished, unable to survive the new high-speed vertical combat environment. The deadly secret was the core reason why the U.S. forces, despite fighting with an ostensibly inferior aircraft, the Wildcat, managed to secure control of the air over Guadalcanal. 1540. Impact on Henderson Field. Control of the air allowed the Cactus Air Force to protect the isolated Marines on the ground and successfully thwart the relentless Japanese attempts to retake the vital airfield. This aerial dominance was non-negotiable for the ultimate American victory in the Solomons. The constant air battles rapidly depleted the pool of Japan's most experienced and highly trained pre-war pilots, a human capital loss that Japan's inadequate training system could never replace. The enduring lesson of the air war against the Zero is that tactics trump technology when one side refuses to adapt. The American pilots did not whine about their plane's shortcomings. They intelligently and ruthlessly found the single fatal constraint in the enemy's design and built an entire combat philosophy around it. The Zero remained an excellent fighter in capable hands, but the myth of its invincibility was permanently shattered by a simple, deadly secret. Don't turn with it, dive and shoot, and always have your wingmen covering your blind spots. The ability of the Wildcat to withstand punishment was legendary, but what was the actual engineering difference that allowed the American F-4F to absorb so many hits and return home? To dive deeper into the technical superiority of American wartime production and the unsung heroes of Grumman engineering, Please subscribe and click the next video on your screen now.